All right, you got to admit that's pretty dang good. Without being able to see the clock, I mean, come on. That's pretty dang good. All right. Well, we've got our data showing up on the back end. Wasn't that cool how easy that was to publish that? And so let's take a look at the front end then. So just keep in mind, we've changed now where the location of the data is. It's now online in the cloud, right? And so we need to grab this address and update our React project. So I'm going to come in here, close that back end, come into the front end. And where is it that we keep track of that information? Our URL. And you'll recall that we created this API folder, and in there's this project's api.ts file, and here we have the const URL that we used. So we can just come in here, replace that with the new URL. Now we don't want the all projects on there, and make sure to take off that trailing / so it just ends with water, because that's how we set it up. These start with a slash over here. We don't want 2 slashes. And so super easy to change. We make that save, and now we're pointed to the new URL. Now this goes back to this point of, like, good programmers are lazy. We're so willing to go in and do a ton of work like we did up front to organize this in a way that we can just make that one change and it's all updated. All right, so we're going to come into the terminal, new terminal, and we're going to do something I should have done in video 1. So we're going to create a new branch. So I'm going to say get branch to see what we're working in. We're currently in phase 5, so I'm going to say get branch phase 6, and then I'll get checkout phase 6, and then we can stage changes. Let me make sure I'm going to do save all, actually. Well, we'll just save that file. I didn't only one to save. So get add dot, right? And then get commit -m getting ready to commit. And then we can say get push origin phase 6. All right, so everything's updated on GitHub, and that's going to become important here in a minute. So now that we've done that, I'm going to cd into the front end folder, and once we're in there, we can run a npm run build. So this is going to essentially do the same thing that our publish command did, but for the front end. And so we've got everything ready to go with that run build. All right, so now what we want to do is come back to our Azure, and in here we're going to click the plus button again, and this time I'm looking for the word static. So we're going to create a static web app. Now when that pops up, I think the first question that comes up is actually about whether you want to sign into GitHub. Now I think I'm already signed in, that's why it's not asking me. But in my notes here I said it's going to have a sign into GitHub. Now you don't have to do it this way. You can do it without signing into GitHub, but this is the preferred way, because if you use the sign in with GitHub, then as we push changes to GitHub, they will automatically be deployed. And so that will save us a bunch of time and effort, so we want to do that. All right, enter the name for the new static web app, and I'll just call it water project front end. I'll say Hilton. I think I did Hilton front end, back end on the other one, so I'll say Hilton front end. Okay, so I click on that. What region is it? And I'll just take the recommended region. What framework is it? Well, we did it in React, so we'll select React. What's the location of the application code? So here I'm going to say front end is where we're looking for this. And then where's the location of the build? In Vite, then there's a folder in the front end called dist. That's what's built as we run our program. So I'm going to choose dist, and I click enter on that, and it says okay. And then it takes that, and if we've done things right, it pops up and says, hey, we created a new static web app on GitHub Actions. It's building and deploying your app right now, and it'll be available once the deployment completes. So I can go in, open an Actions on GitHub if I'm signed in, and I can see that, so this is the screen we normally see. But if I go to Actions, it's going to have this new workflow. that we're building. And so right now it's in the process of deploying the app for us. And then as we push changes again to our app, it will just automatically go here. And so I think that's pretty dang cool. All right, I'm not sure how long this will take. Sometimes it, like on my Windows machine, it took a pretty good chunk of time to get this ready to go. So I may pause it here as we wait, as we all, it'll be varying for everybody how long it takes to do this. So I'll pause for a moment and we'll see how long it takes. And the answer is not too much longer than what it took. Maybe another 30 seconds or so and we popped up. Okay, so now that I've done that, I can go back into Visual Studio Code, and then on the Azure tab here, I can go down to Static Web Apps, and it shows here this Hilton front end that I've just deployed. And so if I right click on that, I can say browse the site. It says, are you okay opening that link? And the answer is yes, and there is our project. And we can go in and we can donate. Now this is on the web, this isn't running locally. You could go to the same address and do it. And I can come in here and say $50 there, add that, continue browsing, donate again, $50, we should now see 100. So, and so on and so forth. I can go donate here and say $500, add to cart. And so, and we can remove all the things that we've done. And so this is working pretty good, except for you may notice that project types is not showing up. Well, why not? The issue is, if we go try to investigate that, why is it not showing? Now if we look at the code here, go to the console, let's see, how do I get it to errors? It's just not grabbing that data. Let's see, refresh. I don't know how to make this pop up. There we go. So it has an error fetching the categories. And so we say, what's going on with that? So we go look, and sure enough, if we go into that categories component, whoops, so in the components, the category filter, well, shoot, we're using the local host, but it's not using that anymore. So once again, I need this address, which I still hopefully have on the clipboard, and I do, to go get the project types. All right, so what do I do to update? This updated it here locally. I saved that, but how do I get it deployed on the site to work? Well, once again, what we're going to do is just update our code. So I'll say git add dot to stage the changes, and once I do that, I can say git commit -m fixed category link, enter, and then we say git push u origin, and then I'm in phase 6. I push that. Now when I do that, if we go back to GitHub, whoops, not there, in this workflow run, then it should automatically incorporate that change, and there we go. So fixed category link, it's now automatically deploying those changes. We're gonna wait and see. I was hoping it would be pretty quick. All right, I'll pause it again. Okay, and once again, a little less than a minute in that case. And so now if I go back to this site that's running, this site, one of these sites, okay, I can go back to Visual Studio Code and go back to Azure and say browse the site, open the site new. Now we get our categories working. All right, and just to show you one more update, I may be getting close on time, but I don't know. I want to show you because it could be this is not working for you if you didn't make one critical change in one of the last videos. I had gone in the videos, and in our back end, we set up the cores, and so in the program CS file in the back end, I had said allow any origin. All right, if I didn't want to allow any origin, if I wanted to allow specific origins, then I could change this to say with origins, and we can put back in the local host, right? But then we can add a comma and then put in the new origin, which is, if we go to this website, this address. So I can copy that and drop it in, oh, not there, here. I can drop that in here and say, look, as long as it comes from one of these two origins, I'm okay with this. And so I can save that. Now this is on the back end. And so just publishing it is not going to be enough on the back end. How do we deploy changes on the back end? Well, as it turns out, Microsoft makes it super simple. We come in, this is my back end, right? I right click on it and I say deploy that to the web app. And it says, are you sure you want to deploy this? Will overwrite what's up there. And I say, that's fine, go ahead and deploy. And so same thing here, it'll say deploying to the water project. Hit deployed. I browse the website. Of course, that's going to be for the back end, so that's not going to be too exciting. But if I come back to the front end, hopefully this still works. And it does, but now it's using it's protecting it against where those origins are coming from. And so it's using the CORS policy is the word I was looking for. And so that is deployment. We can update, we can change. That is deployment using these apps, which I think is pretty dang cool. All right, very cool. Spencer out.